Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sean and today I'm going to be reviewing The Sweet Hereafter by Russell Banks. So this is a book I found out about from the Top 1000 list, 1000 Books to Read Before You Die by James Mustich. I had never heard of it or the author before, but I saw he had a signed book here at the bookstore, The Reserve. So I decided to get that and The Sweet Hereafter, the Top 1000 book, just kind of taking a chance because I knew I had to read The Sweet Hereafter because it's on the Top 1000 list. And since he's a Top 1000 author and I love autographs, I got the signed book by him, just taking a chance on it. I did not really expect much. I did not expect to like it, just because I'd never heard of the author before. So I was just like, Russell Banks, who's that? I'm not excited about it. I've never heard about him. So he can't be good if I've never heard about him. So I put it on my 22 books to read in 2022 list, just because I kind of wanted to get rid of it, just because I wasn't enthused about it. And I didn't ever expect to read any more Russell Banks. Just get it out of the way, clear space for more books. So I went in basically super pessimistic, not expecting to like it. But as I started the book, reading the first chapter or so, I realized, hey, this is a pretty good book. And so right off the bat, as I read the first chapter, I kind of became aware of the fact that this could be another 5-star book, another masterpiece. Completely out of left field, like Russell Banks, why would I like a book by him? But reading the book, and I didn't read anything about the back of the book or the plot or anything. I just started the book not knowing anything about it. As I read, I was like, ooh, this could be pretty good. And it was. So, minor spoilers, just giving the gist of the plot. If you don't want to know that, if you're like me, you just want to go into a book completely blind, not knowing anything about it, go ahead and skip to later in the video. First off, I want to warn you that talking about the plot of this book may make you not want to read it, and that should not be the case. So it wasn't the case with me. If you told me beforehand what this book was about, I'd probably not have wanted to read it myself, and that would have been a misfortune. So I would kind of recommend just skipping this part and read the book, go into it blind, not knowing anything about it. That is the better way to read, I think. It's a good way to read this book. But if you want to know the plot, if you want to know the premise, if you just won't read this book otherwise, here we go. It starts off with this bus driver who is picking up kids, taking them to school. It is snowing and the bus is going to crash and kids are going to die. So yes, this is a pretty emotional story, and yeah. So this first chapter is all from the bus driver's perspective as she is going along picking up the kids. The bus crashes, some of the kids die, and basically at that point all the book is really about is just this town trying to recover from that. And what especially happens is lawyers flock to the area because they want to sue, especially one lawyer who is one of the perspective characters in the book. I am afraid that I am not really doing this book justice. Talking about the plot, just the premise, you might think, I'm not sure I want to read that. But the reason I would recommend this book is the writing itself, the storytelling, the characterization. It is all quite flawless. The book is quite, I always like to use this word sometimes, beautiful. It's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful story. I would really kind of compare it to Tim O'Brien, The Things They Carried, and it seems like I reference that book in every video I do nowadays. But that's just because it left such a high impression on me. And this book seems very similar to that, mainly in the quality of the writing and the storytelling. It's just quite a perfect book, and I can't say anything bad about it. It's flawless. I knew it just as I was reading the first chapter, not expecting anything, and just as I read, I became aware, whoa, this is pretty good. And it was, the whole thing, throughout the book, it was just good. It was well written. It's a masterpiece. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful story in a way. I know it can be pretty difficult sounding theme or premise, but it's a much more enjoyable book to read than the premise would lead you to believe. Something I would recommend about this book is each chapter of the book, which is set from a different character's perspective, at the top of the chapter, it lists who the character is. So if you do read this book, what I would recommend is going through the book and maybe writing down which characters are perspective characters. So that way, as you're introduced to these different characters, you will remember to, like, oh, this character is going to be a perspective character later on. So you may want to write down the characters of each chapter just so you know, like, hey, I need to remember this person. They are going to be a major character. I would recommend that. There's, I think, like 4 of them. So when I started the book, I slowly became aware this could be a really good book. And throughout the book, it sustained that. So it wasn't a book where it just started out strong and then dipped off. The whole book was strong. The whole book was enjoyable. The whole thing is very well written, quite flawlessly written. I would say beautifully written. I can't say anything negative about the book whatsoever. It's just a masterpiece. It's flawless. It's well written. It's great. It's beautiful. And I think everyone should read the book. So the book gets a full 5 stars. When I was coming towards the end of the book, and I knew I was definitely enjoying it, I was really tempted to go back to the bookstore because I knew they had 2 signed books by Russell Banks. I bought the first one before reading this book, just taking a chance on it. But as I read this book and became aware this is a masterpiece, I'm going to wind up giving it 5 stars, I went back and I got the second book signed by him, which is Affliction. And the cool thing is, I actually got this free because I traded in some of my old books. So I got it for free. And so yes, if you've seen my part 3 of all my signed books where I say I'm not going to get any more books, I got another signed book, Affliction by Russell Banks. And I also got this one, Kill Shot by Elmore Leonard. So I got 2 new signed books since my all my signed books video, and both of them were free because I had to return so many books from a book unhaul. Anyway, so The Sweet Hereafter by Russell Banks, I am definitely surprised with it. I was not expecting anything. I just never heard of this author before. And after reading this book, his books basically all become must-reads to me. Maybe not quite must-reads, like I'm not just chomping at the bit to get to the next Russell Banks book, but all of his books definitely do jump up my to-read list. And that's really, I think, the main standard for judging whether you like a book or not, is how much you are willing to read another book by the author. And after reading this book, I am definitely eager to read more Russell Banks books. And when I started, I never thought I would read another one. I thought I'd just read this book, get it out of the way, and Russell Banks would be dead to me. But from reading this book, I want to read everything by him now. So it's a great book, I think. It's highly recommended, 5 stars, and you should read it. So I definitely recommend getting it from your library if you can, or even buying the book. I think it's that good. So anyway, that is it for The Sweet Hereafter by Russell Banks. It's a definite recommended read, 5-star book, flawless masterpiece. So I loved it. So you guys should give it a read. That is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.